Okay, for today's video review, we are checking out the Transformers Generations Kingdom figure that I was probably most excited for before the line finally hit stores. And let me tell you, I was not disappointed. Here we have Transformers Generations Kingdom Optimus Primal, the big boss monkey back again. And yeah, this is a really good figure. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. Here he is in his gorilla mode. A lot of nice detail. I really like that they decided to, excuse me, go with a bit more of a more realistic looking gorilla texture rather than like the one that was in the show. Like he had a lot of personality in the show, but like he always walked on his hind legs, and it looked a little bit doofy. But I really like the expression on the gorilla face. Definitely has some good King Kong vibes. I'm wondering just how coincidental it was that we're getting Kingdom Optimus Prime and Megatron in the same sort of month that we got the trailer for King Kong versus Godzilla. I don't know. Seems like there was some sort of coordination there from one of those companies, but but yeah, he looks really good. He's yeah, he's got a nice like sort of fur texture all over him. You can see a little bit of the robot stuff in there, but that's not too bad. I don't really mind a little bit of the robot stuff peeking out. I just kind of imagine that, in canon, these animal like it reminds me of like we saw some concept art for 35th anniversary Rhinox, and in the concept art for like the Rhino walking around, he actually did have like this these like green bits on the back of his leg. So I imagine it's like, oh yeah, mostly organic animal with some techie bits kind of peeking out. I don't know. I think it's kind of an interesting aesthetic. But yeah, articulation in this mode, his arms are on this joint here that allows them to kind of like slouch in a bit more. So it's a bit of a semi-butterfly joint. The arms are on universal joints here because they're just going to be the robot arms. Elbows bend about that much forward. Wrist swivel. Excuse me. And then the fingers bend in and out at this hinge, at a single hinge here. It's a really nice skin texture on there too. It's kind of I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's got like a little bit of a grit to it. I don't really know how to describe it, but yeah, pretty good. The legs, well, I guess realistically, like his robot mode knees should be the gorilla mode hips, and then he should have some other knee in here, which the figure does not have, but you can bend him back. And yeah, it's, you don't get to move it too far until it looks a little weird. The toes kind of bend up and down. The feet, since they're just the robot mode feet, have a bit of tilt. And then there's also this cut right here that allows them to, it doesn't rotate all the way around. It only rotates like that far. Sorry, it's not supposed to be popping that up, but so it's not a huge motion, but it's just enough that you can kind of like splay the back legs of the gorilla and give them a bit more of a natural looking stance, which I appreciate. The head, it's on a few joints here. It can look up about that far, look down about that far. It has a rotation joint right here that has about that much range, and then it also can rotate like that for transformation. So yeah, you can get a good amount of expression there. I like how he's like one of the few Kingdom figures that actually has pupils painted on his eyes, and I think it works pretty well. But yeah, he comes with these two weapons. He also has a couple built-in weapons, but comes with his swords here. The only real way to store them in this mode is just to peg them on the side here. And if you've been watching my videos, my continuing rant about how that's not actual weapon storage. It doesn't bother me as much on him because like that kind of looks cool, and since like a gorilla is a bit more human-esque, it doesn't feel as weirdly out of place to have those kind of chilling off of his back. I sort of imagine that they're kind of like temporary weapons that he doesn't bring with him all the time, but when he does, it doesn't look too weird to have them in his gorilla mode, because he actually does have some internal weapons that store very nicely in both modes. So it doesn't bother me that much, not as much as usual. But yeah, they're nice sculpts for the swords. Show him off with some other Beast Wars figures. Here he is with, of course, his crew. There's Rat Trap and Cheetor, and then 35th anniversary Rhinox. And yeah, I mean, I showed them off together in Cheetor's video as well. But yeah, they look good together. And then here he is with the other two surviving members of his crew at the end as Black Arachnia and Silverbolt, and yeah, they look good together as well. And yeah, I guess we'll just move on into trans. Oh, you know what? There is a there's kind of a pseudo third mode that actually has dedicated joints for it. If you untab the knees here, well, bring them out, untab them. They kind of like, this is not used for anything other than this mode, this joint. You bring them all the way down, and then you sort of like bring the legs up like that. So sort of double hinge them up so they're compressed a little bit. And then bring the head down. This is supposed to create kind of like the stance he stood in the show a bit more. And it's okay. I mean, the biggest problem with this for me is just that, like, he's got like this weird, awkward, like jutting out knees here. Like, I guess you can kind of bring them back a bit more, but no matter how you really fold them, there's always going to be this like weird gap right there, which just doesn't look natural. And then like his sort of like back plate that, you know, sits over his crotch piece is like, looks a little weird in this mode. I don't generally put them like this at all, but it is like they have a dedicated joint for it and it's in the instructions. So this is what that looks like. But yeah, to continue on the transformation, just straighten out the legs all the way. And there's a little tab that goes into the knee there, which if you're just going straight from the regular gorilla mode to robot mode, you don't even have to undo that tab at all. But yeah, so you just hinge those up like that. These back panels right here will fold down, and those will be his robot mode toes. You straighten out the legs. You take this section here that was like his sort of like back plate. You rotate it around, and then there's a slot right up there and a tab right there. So you just hinge it in so that sits like that. You untab this plate right here that sat over in front of his gorilla mode crotch, and then you rotate it around to make his robot mode legs, and then excuse me, got something caught in my throat. So you take this section back here, and you kind of feel a bit difficult to do, but you hinge that open, and it has this section here with both the robot and the gorilla mode head on it. You rotate the gorilla mode head up. Well, first you kind of pull this piece out. It's on a slider. So you rotate the gorilla head up, rotate it around on that joint there, and then rotate it back in so it kind of sits nice and compressed like that. And then you rotate this whole section along. Now, he's got these two shoulder cannon pieces that you don't have to deploy for robot mode, but this is the only time you can take them out. Like if you want to go between him having the shoulder cannons and not the shoulder cannons, you have to like pull this entire section open and then like pry them out. So I'm just going to rotate them out now. Usually I display him without these deployed, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'll show them off with those. And then you push that section back in, take the chest here, rotate it around, and then bring this hole back in, and then click it back into place. And then last but not least, you just unfold his shoulder pads and straighten out the arms and hands. And there you have Optimus Primal in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks fantastic. He's a very good looking figure. He can hold his swords, of course, and he looks really good holding those. Or if you want, you can store them just in the same way that they were stored in alt mode on the back there, like that. But I'll take them off for now. But yeah, no, he looks, he's got, even though his finger's open, he does have like a hole here that holds the weapon regardless, which is nice that it's not like not dependent on the fingers being tight and closed. It just slots in there like usual. And yeah, he looks really good. Articulation wise, he's pretty good. His head is on a ball joint. Gets, yeah, not a ton of wiggle or waggle or anything, just mostly rotation. Shoulders, same as before, universal joints. Pretty good elbow bend, wrist rotation, and then the fingers here. He's got a waist swivel now, and then the hips are on universal joints as well. They don't go out totally all the way, but yeah, mostly. Then he does have a internal thigh swivel here, which is helpful. And then he's technically got a double jointed knee. If you're using just the one joint, you kind of have to like press it in because like the actual knee joint is tighter than the sort of like secondary knee joint. But without it, it gets about 90, not bad. And then with it, not really a ton more. And then he has sort of the secondary, not really a thigh swivel, but you know, to the same effect. He's got like a little cut underneath here that, I think it's mostly meant for gorilla mode, but it's definitely helpful in robot mode too. And then the feet ankle, or the feet ankle, the ankles tilt. They can't really bend too much in and out, like a little bit, and then you can kind of compress the toe joint here. This one only goes down, so that, you can get some weird stuff going on with the feet, but mostly, you're mostly just getting like normal ankle tilt out of the feet there. Yeah, in terms of features, he's got these two little shoulder cannons up here, which have the classic Siege Earthrise uh, blast effect ports there, which is nice. Like I said, you can completely put those back in. It just kind of looks like how it did in robot mode with just the joints sticking out, but I'll just leave those out for now. And then the most exciting feature, I think, is he's got these little panels on his forearms, and if you push this little section in from the underside, then he pops up his wrist mounted cannons here, which have a little hinge so they can hinge up, and he's got that on both arms, and that is awesome. I love that he's got, entirely internalized weapons that, are unobtrusive in both modes when they're stored, but still look pretty cool when he's got them deployed. And these also have the little nubs for blast effects, but like there really aren't many blast effects that are small enough to like fit both of them on there, so it always looks a little bit weird, but still it's the thought that counts in that regard. And then if you have Paleotrex, and if you're familiar with the original Optimus Primal toy, the head section of Paleotrex is actually designed after the original Optimus Primal's mace. Instead of having two of these, he had this on one side, and then the other side was like a little mace hidden on the inside. So this kind of works with that. It looks little weird, but I really like that they designed Paleotrex that way to give him that homage. Very cool. But yeah, I mean, I had a bit of a struggle with this figure because like when I eventually found it, I bought it without like too closely looking it over, and I realized it had this kind of like big scrape on one of the eyes, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I guess I'll just have to wait till I see it again, and then I'll buy that one and then return the original one. And then literally like the next three Optimus Primals that I found in store had not the exact same defect, but like very similar ones where like half of the eye just didn't have paint, or like the other eye had a scrape on it, and I was just like, felt kind of cursed. And then eventually I found this one, and he thankfully has both of his eyes look great. And then when I got him out of the box, he had this huge splotch of white paint right on the crest here, which kind of sucks, but thankfully that was easy enough to just kind of like carefully scrape off with an X-Acto knife, so I didn't have to like go and return it again or anything like that. But it was I don't know, something about the paint quality control on this particular figure was looking a little bit hairy there. But yeah, no, he looks pretty good. I don't really have many issues with the robot mode. He's got like kind of a gap here, and if there's like any features from the original toy that I missed, like you can't fold these around in any way to give him his jetpack, which was like kind of a prominent feature in the show, which I wish he had, but otherwise he's just like such a perfect figure. And then like other nitpicky things, like I'm pretty sure that the feet should have been painted white to match the show, but I think it looks fine with them in the metallic blue. Really, not a whole lot to say. I'll show him off with the same figures as before. Here he is again with Rat Trap and Cheetor and Rhinox, and let's just bring in the whole team here, and Silverbolt and Black Arachnia. So yeah, you can see the final season 3 crew there. I mean, they weren't all in these forms at the end of season 3, but still, they all look pretty good together. And Silverbolt's kind of hiding back there. There he is. But yeah, no, he scales really well. He's kind of a short Voyager. Like as you can see, like Rhinox was also kind of a short Voyager, but kind of a weird size comparison. But just to show off like kind of what they're doing with the size classes in War for Cybertron, here he is with Earthrise Hoist, and they're pretty much the same height. Like he's a small Voyager, he's a big Deluxe, and yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it. I like the fact that he scales well with the other figures, but still can like pack in all of these features and have like the different weapons and the arm cannons and stuff. It definitely feels like they're looking at the price points as more of like, you know, how much stuff should be included with it as opposed to necessarily just how tall the figure is. Like he's definitely weighs way more than Hoist. Like he's got more, like he's a solid figure, and I don't think that he would have been as solid if he were in that deluxe price point, even though he is about that tall. So yeah, no, I'm totally in for them being doing kind of big Voyager or small Voyagers or big or small deluxes. Like the difference between Hoist and Cliff Jumper, like they definitely feel like they have the same amount of oomph to them, even though they're not like the same height at all. But yeah, no, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, he's a really good figure. I definitely was not disappointed with him. I had a bit of a rocky run getting, one that didn't have those defects, but otherwise he's just like a really fantastic figure and definitely looks great in both modes, and I just love having him on the shelf. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do BotBots reviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then other reviews like these on Sundays. And then, yeah, if you have anything you want me to review, make sure to leave it in the comments, and I'll be sure to get to it if it's something that I have. But yeah, here we have Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, Optimus Primal.